Well, a leading security think tank has exposed the grim reality of our Defence Force. The head of the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, Justin Bassey, had this warning.
We are spending a lot of money, as we should, on these exquisite capabilities that are likely to come to fruition in the late 2030s, 2040s, like the AUKUS submarines. But with the world as dangerous as it is, so many national security threats, there is a risk that we have a gap in the short term.
Albanese, listening to these smart minds, the brilliant analysts, instead of taking their advice, he went on the attack.
Well, that's what they do, isn't it, Aspie? I mean, seriously, they need to, I think, have a look at themselves as well and the way that they conduct themselves in debates. We've had a defence strategic review. We've got considerable additional investment going into defence.
The way they conduct themselves in debates, does that mean don't criticise my government in a debate? I mean, this is a matter of public interest, whether we can defend our nation. Albanese shouldn't be attacking the think tank. And by the way, in his comments about someone from a former government, he's referring to Justin Bassey, who used to work as Chief of Staff to Foreign Minister Marise Payne. Well, let's bring in now former Morrison government advisor David Gazard and former Shorten Chief of Staff Cameron Milner. Good to see you both. Cameron, quite bizarre to attack a credible think tank. Is this another case of the Prime Minister's glass jaw?
Oh, absolutely, Sharri. It is Albo's glass jaw and the inconvenient truth of someone talking about the fact that, our defence capability required a Virgin pilot to ring in a Chinese live fire exercise. I mean, our defences are not what they should be, especially in an era where things are just so dangerous on our doorstep. And sure, AUKUS is great, but why not point out the fact, as Aspie has, that we've got a big issue between now and 10 years' time, and we need to be able to defend ourselves right now. So if it's an inconvenient truth for Albo, I'm sorry, but he's actually got to listen to the experts.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to defence, David.
This is the time where you want Aspie. I can think of really only two influential think tanks that have really punched above their weight over the last half decade. One would be the Left of Centre Australia Institute, and the other is Aspie. And of course, because it's been effective, because it's been influential, it has got up the nose of the Chinese. And let's not forget here that one of the 14 egregious demands the Chinese made of the Australian government was to defund Aspie.
Exactly.
It called for the muzzling of the press, and it also called for Parliament to stop criticising China, as well as the defunding of Aspie. And that is exactly what is occurring. So Australia, at a time of great strategic weakness, is defunding, at the request of China, the one instrument that has been probably front and centre, pointing out where we're strategically weak and where we're strong, at a time when we need it.
Very good points. Excellent points there. I want to ask you both as former political insiders about the shadow cabinet that was just announced yesterday afternoon. And we've been reporting on how senior women were demoted, other talented people like Dave Sharma weren't given great jobs, very junior roles. Cameron, as a veteran insider, you both know how ministries are put together. I mean, Cameron, this is flawed. This is a failure, isn't it?
Well, I don't think so, and I think you've actually got to give them a bit of a chance. I mean, James Patterson going to finance, I think, is an excellent move. James McGrath from Queensland is very good. Zoe McKenzie coming into the outer ministry. So there's some young talent coming through as well, and Julian Lesser coming back in as well. So I think there's some good things. Look, the reason is that Jane Hume wasn't dumped because she's a woman. She was dumped because she was a dud. She had work from home and she had Chinese spies. She cost seat after seat after seat. So, no, if you're a dud, you've got to be deleted and gone. It's not about gender. It's about capacity and competence.
David, what do you think? I mean, would you agree that Susan Lee has made her task even harder after enraging so many people?
It is a tough thing forming a cabinet or a shadow. Well, it's always going to be a shadow cabinet when the numbers are as low as they are, and you've just lost a whole range of talented people, but also you've had a very close-run leadership battle. So the numbers are delicately poised. So you have to make a choice between a whole range of things: representation in the states, representation of gender, representation of factions, Somewhere down the line comes talent, probably not as high as it should be, to be honest.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
And then you've got to also balance out who are the people who voted for you that you want to reward, and who are the people that voted for your opponent that you don't want to give too much a go, although you've got to keep some in the tent. So this was always going to be a fraud exercise. I do think there is a crop of young people within the coalition's ranks that deserve a go, some that didn't get in at all. But it is good to see a group of young people coming through that can form the generational change that I think so desperately needed in the coalition.
I mean, in many respects, the generational change has happened anyway because so many people lost their seats, so there's hardly anyone left. Cameron, I'm interested in your thoughts on Susan Lee as a leader. I know, you're being polite and you say, let's give her a go or the benefit of the doubt. But in terms of actually winning against Albanese, who none of us here think is any good, is she the coalition's best option?
Well, I don't think the opposition from now is going to defeat Anthony Albanese. The voters will get Anthony Albanese well before the opposition does. And that's the point I made in a column the other week about Starmer. 10 months in, he's running scared. He had a huge majority, but the voters have turned on him mid-term. And so I think that's what happens first, is if Albanese loses the support of voters, the opposition gets played back into the game. And let's not forget the fact that even under Peter Dutton, they were ahead until December last year. They lost the campaign, but they didn't necessarily lose the voters up until the last moment, and obviously very badly.
Sorry to interrupt, but you still need a strong and I was saying sorry to interrupt, but you still need a strong and credible opposition leader. Otherwise, as in the case with Victoria, where Victorians are so frustrated with their state government, but if there's a weak opposition, they've got no one to turn to.
Look, as I say, I think you give Susan a go, see how she goes, give us some clear air. Peter Dutton had that blessing from his cabinet after the Morrison loss, so I think she deserves the same chance. And yes, if she fails, she needs to go, but if not, give her a go.
All right, Cameron and David, great to see you again.